Crafty viewers, we are back. It's been a while since we've been here. We moved from the West Coast to the East Coast and went from living in a motorhome with no responsibility to a house with 4 patio doors worth of post-it notes of projects. So there hasn't been a whole lot of time to do crafty things. However, I did have a couple of fun projects that I've been working on that I wanted to share. And let's get started with talking about Halloween. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I love Halloween and tend to make some rather complicated cards for Halloween, and this year is no exception. Over the course of the last couple of years, I've accumulated a good amount of more children's-based Halloween stamps and other holidays worth of children's stamps. But without children, I don't really have a place to make cards for other kids. And through work, I got involved in a group called Cards for Hospitalized Kids. And I thought that's just a perfect way to make cards using up all this stuff that I've bought that looked like it would be a lot of fun to use, but had no actual use for. So I have set off to make some cards for hospitalized kids, and the goal is to get 50 cards done. I'm about halfway there, and I'll share with you 2 of the Halloween cards that I made, and then I'll have an upcoming video with another adorable Halloween card. And then there's going to be some fall stuff coming, and there'll be some Christmas stuff coming. So let's start off with the Halloween cards. For these cards that I made, I used the Happy Howl-o-ween stamp set by Lawn Fawn. And this was last year, year before. I've had it for a couple years. And just absolutely love these adorable little dogs. And so I wanted to find a way that I could use them and came up with these 2 cards. So, and you'll see I have dog hair everywhere. So this very first card is a Halloween shaker card that I made using Happy Howl-o-ween, and I used the little Superman mask and the cape for the first puppy, and then the adorable little hat and skirt on the girl puppy, and she's carrying a little Halloween trick-or-treat bag with a bone in it. So this is a very fun shaker card. It has lots of little sequins in it. And to get started, I used a background of Distress Oxide inks. This was Seedless Preserves up at the top, Chipped Sapphire down below, and then I went over both of those with some black soot. Now, I used the Distress Oxides because they blend so much better than regular Distress inks. However, these were going to kids, and at the time this was not going to be a shaker card, and I was a little concerned about if they had their hands on the oxide inks, if they had any moisture, it would make the ink run. So I used a fabulous product that I have not seen anyone talk about in using it with the oxides. I have seen a lot of people talk about using it with the regular Distress inks, but no one's ever mentioned using it with oxides. So I will show. Okay, this is my secret weapon when using Distress Oxide inks if you don't want to get the oxide effect from them, is using Judikin's microglaze. Tim Holtz also had a microglaze that I believe is the same exact product. However, when I bought this, they were sold out, and the Judikins I could order, and it was much cheaper besides. And it's almost like a Vaseline consistency. But what it does is it creates a protective coating that is water resistant over your oxide inks. So after I blended them together, I just used a little dab, just like Vaseline, and rubbed it in and then buffed it off. And if this were a card that was not a shaker card, I wouldn't have to worry about any fingerprints or coming off or liquids in the hospital splashing on it and ruining and, you know, creating that oxide effect. So I used that on the background after I got it done. But because of that, I actually glued everything down to make sure that it stuck, because I don't know how well, if you use the microglaze and a tape runner, if it's going to stick or not. So I glued everything down for this. I want everything nice and secure to the surface, because when you move the little sequins around, I didn't want stuff falling behind the puppies here. The puppies are sitting on some grass, and the grass came from a Lawn Fawn die set that was the grassy border. You can't really see behind everything with the shiny cover on it, because the puppies are mostly covering up the grass anyway. But there's a dark gray cardstock, same color as this, for the grass. And then for this tree in front that is on the outside creating the shaker part, this was also a Lawn Fawn die, and this is the vertical tree. I will put links on the website, and our link to our website will be in the show notes down below as to where you can get this from. But I have both the vertical tree as well as horizontal tree, and they will be featured prominently in many of the different cards that I'll be making for both Halloween as well as fall, maybe even winter. Haven't gotten that far yet. So the little sequins were from Michael's. I got these 2 or 3 years ago. I think I looked last year and I didn't see anything like this. It was kind of in an odd spot within Michael's when I found it. But it's a big giant container. And given the shaker plastic, I had to use my powder tool very heavily, as well as a dryer sheet, to get rid of all the static on the plastic. The first card that I made, I did not go so aggressively, and all of the little sprinkles stuck to the plastic right in front of the little boy dog's face. So that was not very good. Subsequent cards, I made sure that I used lots of anti-static on it. And I believe the moon came from this set as well. I did not buy the dies for this set because the one thing that I did get was a Brother Scan and Cut over the course of the last year. I have a Silhouette Cameo, and it was just a real hassle for cutting out anything of a stamped image and taking a picture and scanning it in and making sure everything worked right. And I was watching some videos on the Scan and Cut, and all you do is stick it down to the mat, press scan, it scans it perfectly, and 15 seconds later it's cutting your stuff out. So that worked immeasurably better. Also, you notice on my little items here that they are not, they don't have a border. I wanted to have all of my stuff not have borders on it. And the nice thing about the Scan and Cut is that you can cut right to the edge of whatever it is that you're cutting. You don't have to have a little buffer space around it. And once everything was cut out, I just took a black marker and ran the black marker around the edge of everything, so that when you look at it from the side, you don't see the white paper. And I think that just makes a more cohesive look. So that's the shaker card. The other little trick that I did was I didn't have any plastic sheets that I could use for the shaker part. However, what I do have is a laminator and a giant package of laminating pockets, and I realized that if you run the laminating pockets through without any paper in it, it creates a fairly stiff piece of plastic that you could then use as a shaker window piece, and you can cut them out, and it's just as good as any kind of acetate that you might get and spend a bunch of money on. And I have a whole bunch of them sitting around anyways, because I use the laminator for putting foil on craft stuff and not for laminating. So that is how this card came together. I did have some ribbon from a couple years ago also that I got at Michael's, and just put a little trim in there, and then I used the sentiments from the stamp set, wishing you a treat-filled day, happy Howl-o-ween. So that is this card of fun.